YTBC, what's the deal? So September 30th, BounceTV, there would be a PBC card, Tony Thompson versus Malik Scott. You guys know I love the heavyweight division. I was looking at the betting odds, man, and I see Malik Scott as a 2-1 favorite. So I don't know if, maybe one of these insiders got some inside info on Thompson. Maybe, he has knee problems or something, or, maybe something's wrong with his hands. But I don't see how Malik Scott is a 2-1 favorite. Now, that's close. 2-1 is close. It's not like it's 40-1, 16-1. That's very close. But just, you look at these guys' resumes, look at who they've been in there with, how they performed under adversity, being knocked down. I don't know how Tony Thompson isn't the favorite, but I can see Malik Scott stand on the outside. Both these guys have 81-inch reaches, but I can see Malik Scott look like he has the faster hand, stand on the outside, not sitting down on punches, not really engaging, and just, outpointing Thompson for a decision. Thompson has been outpointed. Carlos Takam outpointed him. Kubrat Pulov outpointed him. Those guys like to knock you out, and they end up outpointing Thompson. But I think what they did is they outfought him, because Thompson is a guy that, he likes to get into fights. He's not the type of guy that wants to sit around and box and, not engage. He really wants to fight. He really wants to get in there and mix it up. Even at a big guy, even at 6'5", he's not your regular 6'5" guy. He likes to brawl. Tony Thompson is 6'5". Malik Scott is 6'4". They both have 81-inch reaches. Thompson's the better KO puncher. 40 wins, 5 losses, 27 KOs. Malik Scott, 37 wins, 2 losses, 1 draw, 13 KOs. His last 5 fights, he's 2-1. The Alex Leopold fight, he came in weighing 241 pounds. I think anywhere between 230 and 240 is good for Malik Scott. He fought some dude named Grover Young. I couldn't find it on YouTube. Grover Young, he weighed in at 254. He won that fight. Deontay Wilder, we know about that, left a bad taste in a lot of fans' mouths. And I know it's easier to say, well, you're not the one in there getting hit by Deontay Wilder. And that's true. That is true. So we don't know how hard he got hit, but just watching it looked kind of shaky. But again, we're not the ones in there. The Derek Chisora fight, another fight that I seen Malik Scott lose, and it just looked kind of shaky. He had success against Chisora. He got knocked down. Then he looked like he didn't want to get up. It's just, those 2 losses just leave a bad taste in my mouth about Malik Scott. And I'm not trying to take away from his boxing skill. He's a really good boxer, really good outboxer. He's a Philly guy, so he fights. But I don't know, those 2 losses, man, are kind of shaky to me, just mentally, The Tsar Glazkov fight, I thought he got robbed in that fight. That was a draw. I thought he outpointed Glazkov. I thought he outboxed him. I thought he landed the cleaner shots, more effective shots. I thought he outworked him. I thought he won that fight. Some of you may disagree. Tony Thompson, his last 5 fights, he's fought Aliander Solis twice, Carlos Takam, Kubrat Pulev, and then if you want to throw in the 2 wins against David Price. One thing about Thompson that I noticed is once he does get cracked, he fight. That's the kind of fight that he wants. He doesn't want to stand on the outside and use that reach. He wants the bombs away, not necessarily with hooks and everything, but just if you stand at a distance with him and you want to trade, he'll trade with you. He can throw a jab, but he likes to trade off of his jab. He's not just going to get in there and just throw wild shots, but he will use a jab. He's a southpaw. So this has the ability to be a boring ass fight, or it can be a barn burner. It just depends on what Malik Scott wants to do. And just, looking at his career, I've seen on Twitter here, or was it, Twitter, he, he's rededicating himself to the sport. I know he's a big cigar smoker, a huge cigar smoker, which is kind of, it's kind of like playing with fire a little bit, man. But, shit, Michael Jordan was a huge cigar smoker, and he went out there and can play 4 quarters and overtime of basketball, so. And I've actually played college ball with dudes that were big cigarette smokers too, so I don't know if that's going to hamper him. I mean, he is in his, he is 35 years old. Thompson's 44 years old. A lot of the American heavyweights are between 33 and 43 years old. I know Cunningham's moving down. He was in his, what, is he 40, late 30, he's 39, 40. Tarver's up there. Amir Mansour's up there. Malik Scott, Tony Thompson. It's like the damn... We got all the old guys over here, man. But Tony Thompson, I was looking at the rankings. They have BoxRec has him the 7th rated overall heavyweight in the world. They have Malik Scott number 25 overall. Malik Scott is not ranked in the IBF, WBO, WBC, or WBA. Tony Thompson is rated number 9 by the WBC, which is, it's kind of funny. He's not rated by any other organizations, but, you know, BoxRec and a lot of websites I've seen do have him in their top 10 overall. And my first video on this page I have, not my old page, my Mr. Boxing Today, but on this new page I have Mr. Boxing Today 2. My first video was a, drum roll, Tony Thompson video. It was about how the American fighters, the American heavyweights rather, they don't want to fight Tony Thompson for whatever reason. He always has to go overseas, across the water to get a fight. Now, props to Malik Scott. He travels a lot too. He's fought in Puerto Rico, the UK. I've seen him fight across seas too, but Tony Thompson just cannot get a fight with a fucking American. And he will make for a good fight, especially with his fighting style. I would love to see him in there with Deontay Wilder, just based on their styles and merit, but just based on their styles, because Tony Thompson loves to fight. You know, with his age, and if he keeps winning, they're probably going to, and with him willing to travel, I can see him getting thrown in there against an Anthony Joshua or a Joseph Parker. I can see him getting thrown in there. Even with a guy like, or I like to see him there with some of our American young fighters. Even if it's not a Deontay Wilder, a guy like a Amir Mansour or Gerald Washington or Dominic Brazil. Now, for them, the Brazil and Washington's maybe is a little too early for those guys to get in there with somebody like Thompson. But shit, Thompson's 44, and those guys are in their mid-30s. The American heavyweights aren't young guys over here. You know, we don't have any young Alis or young Tysons or Foremans. These guys are all, you know, 35, 37, 40, you know, and, but hell, you know, it's not that bad being that Vladimir Klitschko is 40 years old, 39 years old. So looking at the landscape, I understand why a lot of these old guys still think that, hey, shit, I have a chance, you know. Malik Scott, you know, he's proved to me that he can beat the Charles Schuferts of the world, the Raphael Butlers, the Cedric Fields, you know, the Travis Walkers of the world. I know he can beat those guys, but whenever it's time for him to step up, man, like against Deontay Wilder, against Derek Chisora, even a Glasscoff fight, because he didn't win it. It was a draw, but he didn't do enough to make it just, you know, decisive. And it's because of his fighting style. He's just too defensive for me. Now, defense is something you need. We know that. It's hit and not get hit. But he really doesn't sit down on punches. And he's a big guy. I mean, he's 6'4", 230 pounds. You know, good weight for him. I've seen him come in at 254, 240. He's a big guy. For him not to really sit down on punches, I think affects the way he fights in some of his bigger fights, guys who can take shots and come forward. But again, I can see Malik Scott winning this fight. You know, I can see him outpointing Thompson. And Thompson, you know, I know I gave him a lot of props, a lot of credit, but that fight against Carlos Takam, he looked fucking slow as shit, man. He came in at 270 pounds. One thing about Thompson's weight, you know, he'll come in really good shape, like when he fights the Klitschko brothers, or Vladimir, I'm sorry. When he fights him, he'll come in, those 2 losses, his only 2 knockout losses, he pushed Vladimir to the 11th round in the first loss. He'll come in at good weights, and then I'll see him come in at 270, 260, 265, and he'll still give guys hell and still win fights. So I'm kind of curious to see what his weight's going to be. Now, if Malik Scott is, you know, really trim around 230 and uses his legs, he might beat Thompson. He might beat him, but it's just the way Malik Scott, just his, the way he reacted in his 2 defeats, they just look shaky to me. Whereas Thompson, if he's going to lose, he's going to lose. You know, it might be a little bit sloppy. It might be a little bit, you know, like I said, just sloppy fights. But I know with him, if he gets hurt, he gets buzzed, he's going to fight back. He's going to go all swinging. Look at the David Price fights. He was pretty much should have been knocked out against David Price. Came back and knocked Price out, beat him twice, knocked him out twice. And Thompson was hurt against Price, you know, so, but that should give Malik Scott you know, a little bit more confident than he already has. I mean, if Price can hurt him, I mean, Price had Thompson hurt. Now, you can argue Price is a harder puncher than Malik Scott, but I believe Malik Scott is a better caliber of fighter than Price. That's just my opinion, but as a professional, and at 44, I mean, when is Tony Thompson going to get old? You know, 44 is old, man, but like I said, in today's, landscape, it's the norm, especially for Americans, you know. So will September 30th be the night where he gets old? I'm going to roll with Tony Thompson, man. I know Malik Scott is a 2-1 favorite. I damn near want to put some money on this fight. Because I thought when the fight was made, you know, I almost had to look at the odds again and go check other sites. But every site I've seen has Malik Scott as the favorite. So maybe this is a case of Tony Thompson just getting old on September 30th. Also on this card on BounceTV, check out Javante Starks. He's 13-0 with 7 knockouts. He's going to be fighting a kid. I forgot the kid's name. Figueroa, I think. He's 9-0. Javante Starks is a local kid here from Minnesota. He's the first guy I've ever sparred. He's about 6'1", and he campaigns at junior middleweight. He can crack, man. You know, I'm 6'5", 35 pounds, and when I got in there and sparred with him, the dude can crack. You know, now, I'm not a professional fighter, but those 4 or 5 rounds we sparred a few years ago, the boy can crack, man. So check him out. 13-0, 7 knockouts. But as far as the big boys, the big fight, I'm going to go with Thompson. I can see Scott. Oh, man. He probably could pull it off, but just from what I've seen, the fighters they fought, how they react when they fight those fighters, I'm going to roll with Tony Thompson. YTBC. I'm out.